Hey everybody, it's Marty the JavaScript party, and my buddy Rhett, and here's my nut for Rhett. Rhett, you want this nut? You want that? All right, I'll go set that down there. She's not waiting for me this time. Ugh. Anyways, so today is May 6th. It is 7:56 a.m. So I got a pretty good early start this morning, and it is absolutely beautiful outside. I think it's probably my my little notification from Windows down here says temps to rise. So apparently it's supposed to get warmer. I would guess it's probably like right at 50 degrees Fahrenheit outside. Perfectly blue skies, absolutely sunny. All the trees are full of leaves now, so everything's going well. The birds sound happy. I saw two big, well, okay, not big like Minnesota, like northern big, but like for around here, two very big deer in my backyard yesterday or to this morning. One of them was a male. He looked he looked like a big dude, but he had horns that were like, I don't know, 4 inches long, 3 4 inches long, and he was kind of looking at me, and he had a female with him, and they were kind of looking at me. So I'm guessing that they must have other humans that give them food around here. So it's trying to figure out, am I like friend, foe, neutral, blah blah. Now we do feed the cats around here. So there's these feral cats, and a feral cat is a cat that was once, like in its lineage, was domesticated and sort of went back to living in the wild. Um, as opposed to a wildcat. A wildcat would be like a creature that has never been domesticated and all that. So that's the difference between feral and wild. And we do feed the feral cats because they keep the rats and mice and rodents like that away from the house. So we feed them, but we don't feed the deer. But obviously, someone around here feeds the deer. But anyways, so we are doing visualizations, and we got this working, and we made sure that it worked with the cat tabs, with the keyboard, and with the mouse, and we made sure that there was like visual indicators when you tab into it and stuff like that. So now we have a click handler, and that's this guy right here, and it calls add viz. And yesterday at the end of the video, I was talking about like, oh, I need to have a signal, and the signal needs to I need to wire up some sort of communication scheme and all that. And I was like thinking, okay, so basically what we would be talking about doing there is creating another layer of abstraction. That's exactly what we're saying. We're saying, hey, this needs to talk to something else, and then that thing needs to create visualizations. And I do not think that that is actually useful in this specific scenario. Now I know it's like I kind of defaulted to that because historically that's how everything's set up. Like everything I've ever come to, when you come to like a component like this, the component itself doesn't call the services, it calls something else that calls the services. But I don't see any point to doing that. I just don't, because it's like a one-liner, right? I think it's just a one-liner. I don't know. So the code that we have right now that does this lives here, and basically we have a visualization. So we have this constructor, and we create and animate renderers. Okay, so we won't animate them from here. So let's go to implementation. I don't know what the difference between go to implementation and go to definition are. I work with C# a lot. It's definitely not my main skill, but I do work with C#, and so there's like these implementations, and then there's definitions. That's where you define what a function does and how it works and all that. It's kind of like you set up a TypeScript for everything. And then you have your definitions, and or you have your implementations. But we don't really have a definition for create animation renderers. We just have the implementation. So I don't know. I guess that's just like but I don't Okay, so this does, it creates the renderers, and I don't know. And then this creates animation visualizations, and this sets up the DOM visualization. And then this thing just waits for the next async cycle, and then it calls setup visualizations. And then this goes through each one of them and checks to see if it's been initialized. And if it's not, then it calls the visualization service create visualization. So what the hell? Oh, create render. So it looks like we create a renderer here. We get a base render and then st render. Okay, so then this is like a local value. So I don't, yeah, that's weird. All right, so I guess it is time. It is the big moment where we quit making them over here. And this is sort of kind of cool because it'll kind of show us holes. Like now we've created a whole system for creating things, and then what we want to do, we're going to try to use it in a whole different context. And when we use it in that whole different context, it's kind of like, okay, we're going to see, okay, so it's going to work. So it's like in this situation, we sort of built it out in, like, let's say, like in the shop. We're in the shop and we're working on an engine. And then we said, okay, the engine, okay, so now we're going to move the engine. We're going to put it into a car in the shop. And we're like, okay, and now we're going to take it, the car, and we're going to drive it on the road. And we're going to see if it works or not. So basically, I guess I need to come over here, and there's probably a service that I need to go to definition, go to, what does go to definition do? It's the same exact thing, right? If I hit that, and go to implementation. Yeah, so I guess that's contextually, they have that as a drop down, and they don't really, I don't know, maybe there is a way you could set up all your implementations ahead of time. I would actually love to know what the logic behind that is. You know, like why would you want to have a whole separate set of implementations and then definitions? Like, why would you want that? I'll probably ask ChatGPT that later today. Okay, so this goes through and loops, and it goes to create renderer, and create renderer uses this st service, and it gets a base renderer. And I don't know what happens at that point. So let's go ahead and first import our st renderer service, and I believe that should be named capital st renderer service. So let's go to our app menu and import our st. So we have our core stuff, we have our third-party stuff, and so generally after that is where I put our custom stuff. So import. And I think what I like to do is do this, actually. Over here. Oh, so we're going to need our inject function. I believe that's capital IJENCT. And then we want to use it, and we use it right here. Shit, you just have to remember. So we're going to say st renderer service. See if we can do this out of memory. I love you too. St renderer. Did I misspell that? I'm just going to copy this just to make sure. You know, it's funny because copy and paste like did not exist when I first started. Oh, so actually, is that right? Render, yeah, that's right. It didn't exist when I first started coding. Actually, having two applications up at one time didn't exist when I first started coding. When I first started coding, you had a DOS screen, and you could be in one screen at a time, and you had to close the screen and go to another screen. So you sort of had to have this crazy memory where you would look at something, close it, and then go to a different program, and then we got to where we could have you could have multiple programs up and running at the same time, but you couldn't share data. There was no copy and paste and all that. And then we got to where we could copy and paste. And it's funny because like the basic foundational skills you needed to code changed based on the tools available. And so now we can copy paste, but sometimes it's better to remember. It's interesting. But anyways, we want to use our inject function. I love you too. Love you too. All right, so now we have our renderer service. And now if I remember correctly, so right now we're not doing anything with this. And then over here, we're using that, and we're going to say this.st. And we might decide at this point, right after we do this, oh no, there's enough work that needs to be done that it makes sense to abstract this. But I think it's better to find out why you want to abstract it than to just abstract it. Okay. So I don't know what's going to happen. You would think that this is going to set one up. This is going to set the whole thing up, but I don't know what those other lines of code are doing. Now we'll save that, and then we're going to come back over here and comment out our function that creates these things. And then we get nothing, got nothing. And we still got nothing. So did we get any errors or anything? So it's saying get base render is not a function. Okay, that's weird. That's so weird. Go to implementation. Okay. Now that is strange, right? That's strange. So I expected a lot of things to happen. This was not one of them. SG renderer service. Let's see what it is. Let's see what ST renderer service is. Would it be param decorator? Param decorator factory. Did I must have grabbed the wrong thing. No, that's the right thing. Right. Param decorator. All right, I'm completely dumbfounded by this. ST renderer service. Guess you see something new every day. Just don't even know what to think. You ready? Because it's ST, so you would think I'm not like accidentally grabbing some other thing. did a so I injected a service in Angular called st render service in the console or in the debugger shows my service as a param decorator service. There's an error. It just often indicates. So I did this. Maybe I'm doing inject wrong. Let's see how we did that. This is a good one though. This one. Oh, it's the lowercase inject. So that's how you learn. Inject. Inject. And let's get rid of our debug statement over here. Let's just reload again just for fun. That's how we like to have fun. Okay, did we get another error? Nope. So we didn't get an error. So it was kind of funny. Okay, so for some reason get base render does not actually, which makes sense because it's not creating a visualization. So there probably is a good reason to add a layer of abstraction here, because I don't want to, if it was just a one-liner or 2 lines of code, maybe it would make sense to and yeah, if it's just one more line of code or something, it might make sense to leave it here. But once we start getting to more lines of code, and if we need to add some sort of logic or whatever, then that stuff definitely needs to be pulled out of this. Because if we ever want to add another a visualization from anywhere else, we'll have to duplicate this logic, and we don't want to do that. But I do like to learn. I like to know why I'm doing things. So create animation renders. So what I do is, okay, so this animate, set up DOM visualizations. Yeah, so it looks like we're going to need to add a timeout and then call setup visualizations. And what does setup visualizations do? So this goes through all of the components. And then for each component, it will create a visualization if it has not been initialized. Oh man. And that is because, what does this thing do? Of ST renderer IDs. Okay, so it needs its renderer ID. It needs to have a renderer ID. And that is a local variable. Or a class level variable, but it really does need to be like from a service. So So let's go to our render ID service or renderer service. And so we have a render dictionary. Yeah, so yeah, it is clear. It has become very clear that I do need some sort of system for. I need a service that sort of manages this, whatever this is, and I don't know exactly what this is. So that's the first thing is. So what has to happen is something needs to manage the UI. State. Right? So something needs to be like, oh, okay, I have a renderer. And then what'll happen is, and I'm just kind of thinking out loud right now, what'll happen is that this guy will see that it has one, and then it'll generate based on this that comes from some kind of service. It'll generate the app viz, and then the app viz will take that renderer and do that, but then also whatever this other thing was doing where it was rendering things. So basically I think what I need is another service. So we have a visualization. I don't know what to call this. I guess it's a UI service that we need to create. Let's see, we are at 8:18, so let's go ahead and go into our packages. And we're going to create a service called the UI service. And so there's where we create one service already. And I don't even know. I'm hoping this is what I want. And I don't know if this name is gonna work over time. I think so. I think it'll still be good because stuff will have to get added in so that it knows how to handle the editor and all kinds of stuff like that. So, and what do I do when I go to package? I close others, and let's come over here. Let's render our new UI service. We're expecting a new folder in here. Run SUI service. And basically, at this point, we just basically want to move everything that app was doing into here. But the one thing that we can't move into here is the piece where it draws the DOM elements on the screen. All right, so is this where we expected it? Yep. All right, so basically what we want to do is, so do we want that to be a signal? I don't think we want it to be a signal. I think we just want it to be a function called like create visualization or something like that. Insert visualization. Yeah, I guess add visualization, insert something like that. So wrong one. Add visualization. I can't wait to see how this turns out. Okay, so it just is literally going to add whatever we consider to be a basic visualization. Console log. think we are going with viz instead of. And so now I don't think we even want to bring the renderer service in here anymore. But we still need to inject. Let's see. Is it called U? It's probably called UI service, right? So I'm trying to do this from just like not even memory, right? Because I never even actually looked at the name of that service equals inject. Let's go ahead and add a space in there. And then this, we're going to do this.UI service dot add viz. Boom. And then basically we just want to see that it's wired properly by looking in the inspector, console, boom, add viz. And I think we are probably done in this whole app menu. Like we probably won't need to come back in here. Everything from here on out will come from that. So I think what we can do, and I'm not sure. Okay, I'm actually very curious. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it an IDs. And I guess we do want to make that a signal. So historically, I think what we did in the beginning, in the primitive days, is we would create like a variable up here and then have like a getter and respond. But like a lot of times what you get, you would get that weird object change before ID could be updated bug. But I think if you make it a signal, then you don't have to worry about that. Like all that stuff gets handled underneath the covers. So I don't, do I have any signals in this thing? It's been a while. No, I don't think I do a signal yet. And it's probably been like, I know I have other projects that I do signals on. So my issue was used inject instead of inject. It's good to learn things. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Only valid inside constructors. Okay, so to set up a signal. Great. I noticed that like if I don't use my this version of ChatGPT from here, I don't get all these like positive affirmations and stuff like that. So I guess that's for me. All right, so that makes sense that I'd want to import that. Oh, and that's coming from core, so. Signal, and then so I think what I want to do is create like a private. Okay, so set count, this count plus 1. So let's try it. Let's just try going with the way it's saying to do it. Okay, so what do I have? I'm creating a viz ID, right? Can I do this while it's commented out? No, that's weird. Eh. Oh, what a pain in the butt. Guess I want to put a space in front of here. There we go. All right. So it's going to call this dot create renders. Go to definition. And that calls get base render. And then what it's going to get is an STID. Boy, sure would have been. See, this is where it'd be nice to have called this whatever it was. I think it's an STID. ST renderer ID, which is going to be an array of IDs. Equals signal and I think I can strongly type this. I'm just going to try to do this out of my head. And so basically I've forced that to be a set of numbers. And then I want to get a number. So I'm going to need my old thing. So I do need that inject after all. So basically I want to run that function to get a renderer ID. So inject, lowercase inject, and then st renderer. Is it visualization renderer? I think I got rid of all of that stuff. I can't remember. ST renderer service. So basically I want to get my renderers from here. But I can't really do anything. Oh, there's a lot of stuff I can't do until I get, until that DOM element is created. Let's pull this guy in here. Put a little space in there. Now, renderer service, and then const st renderer ID. And see, like the reason I named it instead of naming it ID like I did before is because it actually was kind of nice. I mean, it was kind of a pain in the butt to not know what the name of that was in that last one. It would have been nice to, and then we want to this dot renderer IDs dot set, and then I don't know, push this did not let me do that. Can I const? So I don't know why this wouldn't work. Oh, because this needs to be a execution. Yep. Okay, so it won't let me just add to that existing thing. So maybe I have to create a numbers IDs. St render ID. I don't want to just name it the same thing because I find that to be ID list is equal. Fortunately, there's not a thing called a list in JavaScript. It's equal to .st. And then, so what this will actually do is we'll create another list. And since the list is a list of or another array, and since it's a, let's just let the validate with that, let TypeScript validate that for us. So this is a whole new sort of container, but since it's only a container of primitives, that means that even the values inside of it are going to be new. They're going to be copies of the previous values. If it was a container of objects, then those objects would remain the same objects. It would be a reference to the objects. That's one of the weirdest things in JavaScript. I don't know, maybe it's all languages, I don't know, but it is something that really hangs people up. Okay, so now with our st render list, I have like a confidence level of of 1 out of 10 of this right now, of what I'm doing. So I'm just sort of learning. This is not something I ever have to do in a job or ever had to do in a job, because I've really never worked in a job where they were beyond Angular 14. So signals didn't even exist. And that's why I do this. So the way this is done right now, anytime anything changes, now what? It says argument type void is not assignable to a parameter type number. This render IDs, let me just call this signal. Probably in the future I won't do that, but for now, since I'm not really super familiar with signals, I'm going to do that. Oh, what am I doing? And that might have been my problem to begin with. Oh, no, it wasn't. Okay, so now it's because I was working off of other code. So the way this is now, the signal, whatever does all the signal processing will recognize, no matter what, will recognize that there was a change, because the actual array is a new array. It's a brand new array, so it's going to recognize it. If I was passing the same array back in, it may not recognize it. Like if I had a array up here and then I just added to the array and all that. So if I had like list equals and then I update it and I reset it, it would be like, you didn't change anything. But the way this is set up right now, it's always going to rerun, which is a good thing because the only time I'm calling this is when I've actually changed it. So let's hit save. Now read and update the signal. So I think there's like some sort of advantage to doing it this like a computed, because then it's like read only. But so now in my UI, in my app, I need to listen for this signal, and this is the way you do this. Now, one thing I don't really particularly like about signals, and maybe it's just me, but like there's no way to specify which signal you're listening to. You're listening to all signals, and then this runs no matter if I'm listening to 5 different signals in my app component, that's going to run if any of the 5 signals updates. And that was not kind of what I expected. And I guess I didn't expect that because of RxJS, because in our RxJS, you kind of subscribe to a specific subject or behavior subject. But in this, like you're kind of saying, I'm subscribing to all signals everywhere that I mention inside of this effect function. So I don't really like that, but I might in the future. I haven't dealt with it enough to have a useful opinion, in my opinion. I will definitely feel a lot more comfortable with that in the future. So where are we at? 8:38. All right, so now in our app component, we want to bring in our new UI service. So I think the way this is going to play out is that the only time I ever use, the only time I consume the UI service will likely be in the app. But the app, lots of things will contribute to the UI service. That's what I think. I'm not sure on that though. All right, so UI service colon UI service is equal to inject UI service. So in this case, it just decided to do it for me. So I did divide these up. So so now if I want to use it, that is interesting. So then I guess, yeah, now if I want to use it, it'll be interesting. Yeah. Anyways, let's just go ahead and do effect, which I believe I need to inject into, I need to import to consume it. But effect is a function, and it accepts a callback function, and it has to be injected from the core. I heard there was like one of these when I was watching the Angular what's it called, the Angular live stream. They were saying that one of these lifecycle hooks is getting ready to be gone. I don't think it was this one, but it was definitely an after view. One of the after view ones is on its way out. Effect. But we probably should put this in alphabetical order. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. Control. And then, so now we can use our effect down here, and it takes a callback function. I think that's the only argument it has. Yeah. Effect cleanup register function. Oh wait, effect function on. Interesting. I don't really know what that all means. It will be scheduled to execute whenever the signal it reads changes. Angular has two different kinds of effect: component effect and root effect. Component effects are created when effect is called from a component directive or within a service of a component directive. Root effects are created when effect is called outside of a component, such as in a root service or when the force root option is provided. Force root. The two effect types differ in their timing. Component effects run as a component lifecycle event during Angular synchronization, change detection process, and can safely read input signals or create destroy views depending on the component state. Root effects run on as a micro task and have no connection to the component tree or change detection. I don't know really what most of that means, but it'll be easier for me to understand in the future. Okay, so then console.log effect render list changed, and then what? This is what I want to do, right? Now that is read and update the signal. Where do I this count? That doesn't seem right. Comma. I think I want to do UI service dot for signal. And so we're hoping that this thing gets updated and that we see this console log and that nothing bad happens. And this is me learning new stuff, and maybe you learning new stuff too. So the second thing never happened, right? Like that never. The first one, see, we got the renderer list right at the beginning. Renderer list changed. It went from like undefined to blank. But then when we called this, I thought it was going to call our UI service, which would then add the viz. Which then should have come in here and set this renderer. And I believe setting the renderer should have then caused that render viz to render again the effect. See, an add viz did happen, but this set renderer IDs. So let's see what renderer ID list looks like there. What I'm thinking it should have is 2 items in it. Yeah, 1 and 7. But then when we hit, we never get into our effect. Was it supposed to be where effect? Let's count. So my so I have the. I guess I should just. Well, this is another time that I warn you. You know, do not do what I'm about to do with production code. You do not want to share your production code with ChatGPT, I don't think. So it's transpiling fine. But let's see. Oh, it should look in the service. Okay, I guess I should show them my service. Okay, so let me just throw in my service. I should read that because I would learn a little bit more, but I'm running out of time. So oh, it is. It says it's the same array object. I did not think it was the same array address. Don't mutate the original. Mm. So basically, it's doing this. So it's saying do this. I thought it would be a different one because I said const. Well, I guess maybe not. So maybe I can do this. Dot, dot, dot. Let's ask if this will this work. I'm just curious. Now let's see if it's right. Run it. Let me just reload again. I think I had another. No. Okay, so console. Boom. Add list. Oh, we did have another one. Run console log. Render changed. Okay, and then so if we hit it again. Yay. All right, so yay. Woo. All right, so we got our list ID list to change, so we should be able to go from here to updating the visualization, you know, like updating the template. Like instead of going off this ST renderer IDs, or maybe setting the ST renderer IDs based on this, and then running, and then probably running that other code, but that's probably not how I want to do it. But probably I want to pull that other code that is happening below into the UI service, and get all that code out of the app component. But anyways, yeah, it is 8:50, so this is a good time for me to stop. It's good length, 54 minutes. That's not a bad length video. I felt like I understand signals better. Yeah, I guess I did misunder. The big gap that I had was for some strange reason, and now that I say that, I don't understand. I thought that getting the standards rendered single would, and assigning it to something would give me a new array, but it didn't. It gave me a reference to the array that signals is using underneath. See, that's probably where my gap was. I did not think that signals would give you a reference to its array that it's pointing at under the covers. I thought it would give you a fresh array when it did that, but it didn't. It actually gave me a new, it actually gave me a reference to its array, which is fine. I don't see any problem with that. But that's like an important thing for me to sort of absorb and understand. So anyways, so tomorrow we'll head on down the path. I think we're done. I guess we should get rid of this console log. I think we're like literally done with this. Well, no, because yeah, well, we should be able to. I think we can get everything re-rendering without making any more changes in this UI service. But I do want to come into this app component and pull out some of this other code that's down here into the UI service. Pull it out of this app thing. The one argument I had been mental argument that I had been having before is whether I wanted to have in my just like in my inner dialogue was whether I wanted to have like a separate UI service that was up in here or whether I wanted to have an app component service. And now I think definitely in the UI service up here in services realm. I mean, I guess it still might make sense to create an app service and have this kind of stuff in there. But I don't think so because I think visualizations, there are going to be things that want to impact that visualizations. But so now, but what we could do is, I think, create animation renders. We basically we said, okay, create 16 renders or something like that, and then animate visualizations. And I think when we created the renderers, basically what we were doing is we were populating that ID list. Yeah. So all we were doing was, so instead of that, basically this guy's done. Now I can use my effect to push new IDs. I'll probably have to add a little bit more logic to say, hey, don't put the ID on the list if it's already there, but push the new IDs onto the list and then run these other two functions. And then we should be able to just add them, and at least functionally it'll work. And we could even at that point write our end-to-end test. But I do want to yeah. So anyways, should be really cool. I think we're headed to some really neat things. Happy coding, everybody. Bye.